Welcome back to part 2 of Fall from Grace. As I said last week, this was a new concept to me, although it was a number of years ago, but new when I first heard about it. And it really profoundly illuminated things that I'd been observing with people. But my understanding of fall from grace was the childhood fall from grace. And I'm wondering whether you've thought of some situations or a fall from grace for yourself. Often I think we bury those and forget them. In fact, when I was talking to my son and supporting him and helping my granddaughter Sophia, I said to Tim, "Do you remember your fall from grace?" And he said, "Gee, no, I can't think of it." But I remembered it as a parent because when it came out, it was something he'd carried for years inside. I didn't recognize at the time that it was a fall from grace, but the fact that it got stored inside and didn't tumble out of him until one day we were actually in Australia and having a family holiday. We were doing some teaching and holidaying, and on the very last day before we were due to fly home, Timothy said he felt sick. And of course, as a parent, you think, oh no, we're flying for 18 hours or whatever. I said to him, what kind of sick? Well, my tummy feels bad. Oh boy. Anyway, long story short, I suddenly remembered what's going on in your thinking. What are you feeling? Because the thinking and the mind, as we know from choice theory and total behavior, thinking and feeling are often connected with the physiology. And then out came the story of what had happened for him. So often we will push down those memories. But as I was sharing this with a girlfriend just a couple of weeks ago and thinking about this whole fall from grace, she said, well, then I think you have them as an adult. In fact, I think I had one as a teenager. And we started to explore this. And so that opened up my thinking on this whole concept. What would a fall from grace for a teenager be like? Well, and the one that came to our minds as we were talking is pregnancy. Think of how that was held, even in my Mother's Day. And I'm not sure that it's any less traumatic for the girl and the boy, but today's society has opened up and shifted. But back in my mom's day or my grandmother's day, it was a catastrophic event. And it was irreversible. And there was responsibility. And there often was hiding. And more importantly, I think there was shame. Yeah. And so we'll talk about that and the part it plays because, if you've been following the blogs, we did a whole series on the role shame plays in how we develop and how we feel about ourselves and our worth. Anyway, so teenage fall from grace. What could that include? Could it include not getting into a university or a college program? Possibly, depending on the circumstances. As an adult, what would be fall from grace situations? And I was thinking, wow, some of the clients I've worked with. I remember meeting a real estate agent, and his job was to develop the new business and really expand the company. And so we were talking about that and, what it takes to do that and be open and innovative and so forth. And we're also talking about how we can hold ourselves back and sabotage ourselves. And what came out of that conversation is he shared the fact that in his past business experience, he'd gone bankrupt. And that experience was so traumatic for him that it had indelibly locked in again, as I said, into who he was. And so as we looked at that, he could see the direct correlation between that experience and his system never ever wanting to take chances and be out on a limb, to put himself at risk. So imagine feeling that you never want to be too far out of the box, take too many risks, and yet your job is to build a company and to literally be thinking outside the box. You can see the conflict that he was in. I also think, what about divorce? How many people feel that that was a shattering of their dreams, a catastrophic event? They may feel responsible. Maybe there was an affair involved, and how they cope with it. So these are some of the ones that have come to my mind. The other that came to our mind as we were talking, my girlfriend and I, what about being fired from a job? How devastating to the self-esteem. How powerfully impactful in terms of how you see yourself, the value you think you have. So these are some examples of what I think actually are also falls from grace as an adult. And of course, then the question becomes, what do we do with them? So often, I think, because of the shame, because of the loss of feeling valued and our worth, we want to hide. We want to diminish. I've heard stories, and I'm sure you have, of people losing jobs and still going out and pretending they're going to work and not being able to tell their spouse, their partner. Yeah, it's just heartbreaking, and it speaks again to how powerfully these impact us. All right, so food for thought. Have you had some fall from grace situations for yourself as an adult? And if so, the important question is, how have you dealt with them? Have you just locked them away? Are they sitting there? Are they like a stone in your gut? Or something that just seems behind a closed door in your mind because it's too painful to bring out? If that's the case, your nervous system takes a toll. Your whole body has to deal with that kind of blockage. And we know that that's not good for us emotionally, physically, or in any way. It limits us in having our heart open and being connected and being who we really want to be. So in part 3, I'm going to talk about what can we do about those situations, those falls from grace that have powerfully affected us. All right, that's it for today. Please send us comments if you have. Share this with friends. We love to hear from you and look forward to being with you next week.